The day at the hotel was routine. Well, that was the beginning. I am Cindy, and I am constantly kept on my toes because I am the manager of the establishment. Neither the complaints nor the check-ins and check-outs ever stop. You would think I would have acclimated to it by now. This guy strode over to the front desk and gave me an irritated expression. His sharp scowl, slicked back hair, and sharp suit made him the epitome of refinement, slapping his phone on the counter and staring at me as if I had personally wronged him, all without saying a word. I can't stand how my room is right now. Who is to blame for this? Cold as ice, he lost his temper. I inhaled deeply and put on my most charming customer service grin. I apologize deeply for that, sir. The manager here is Cindy. I will attend to this for you immediately. He remained utterly tense, his suspicious gaze fixed on me. Hopefully, yes. The owner's phone was just going to ring. Remember who you are. Cindy, I murmured softly again. We can resolve this. Would you like me to compensate for the trouble by upgrading you to one of our finest rooms at no extra cost? On our way to the new room, I noticed that he was beginning to relax a little. As he scratched the nape of his neck, he sighed and eventually spoke more softly. I apologize for my explosive outburst. Hi, my name is Peter. I am exhausted from being on the road for weeks. I reassured Peter, no worries, as I unlocked a higher-level room for us. Everybody has bad days sometimes. We'll see to it that the remainder of your stay is comfortable. His worried face turned one of relief as he surveyed the modernized space. This is going to work well. He acknowledged the gesture with a subtle grin. I felt relief as well as I saw him relax. We began conversing as I completed the paperwork. Although he acknowledged that it wasn't as glamorous as it seemed, Peter revealed that he was a Bitcoin investor who traveled the world to enjoy the fruits of his labor. With a nod, I gave him the key to his new room. Yeah, I can totally see that. Well, at least you're constantly meeting new people. Isn't that great? He laughed. Indeed, rather similar to hotel managers who are adept at placating irate clients. That made me giggle. That's what makes the job so appealing. He stopped short of going to his room. So, Cindy, how about we get dinner at a later time? Your patience in dealing with my rudeness is appreciated. I smiled because I was taken aback by the invitation, but I could see he was being genuine. Certainly, Peter. I like the sound of that. So that's how I met a hotel patron and had supper with them. From the Bitcoin market's highs and lows to our preferred pizza toppings, we covered it all. He was laid back, humorous, and, unexpectedly, unfazed by the daily mayhem that accompanied my profession. Following that unanticipated meal, I found myself opening up to Peter about my crazy day. Many more moments spent together ensued from that one dinner, which was surprising. It felt authentic and genuine, not like a cheap and easy relationship. We used to get a late-night snack or just hang around and chat till we were up until the crack of dawn after my shifts at the hotel. We wound up at this dive bar one night. At this bar, it felt like everyone knew each other, and there was never a shortage of refreshing beer. As we nestled into a corner booth, the din outside gradually subsided into a low hum. It was Peter's custom to sit there and remove the label from his beer bottle. He was thinking about something. As he glanced down at the bottle, he began, "You know, Cindy, I've traveled a lot and seen a lot of places, but honestly, life on the road can get pretty lonely." As I watched him intently, I sipped from my drink. Then why do it again and again? Just get a place to call home, shall we? A little parched giggle escaped him. Get comfortable and do what? Obtain a puppy, put money into real estate, and cut the grass on Fridays. I am not that. As I shook my head, a laugh escaped me. That kind of predictability isn't necessary, you know. Nevertheless, I appreciate it. Giving up freedom isn't easy. Sitting in the quiet and taking in the sounds of the pub around us, we lost ourselves for a bit. Unintentionally, I began to divulge more personal details about my life than I had discussed with anyone in quite some time. When my parents passed away, my younger sister, Cheryl, and I were left all alone, I started nearly taking my own words for granted. In order to provide for us, I had to mature quickly. I reserved all actions for now. Her future, her education was on my shoulders. In a serious and attentive manner, Peter turned to face me. "Cindy, that's a lot of weight. With so much to do, it must have been difficult." "Yeah," I said, attempting to diffuse the situation. "It was tough, but you have to make the most of your circumstances, don't you?" Without ever taking his gaze off of me, he slowly nodded. "You've accomplished a lot for yourself," he remarked, his voice carrying an air of genuine admiration. "Keeping Cheryl's life relatively ordinary while managing an entire hotel. That's remarkable." This time my laughter was genuine. I suppose I was merely carrying out my duty. Peter drew forward, his eyes genuine and unwavering. "Do you realize how extraordinary you are?" I swatted his arm jokingly and said, "Stop it," but his comments touched me in a manner I didn't anticipate. I felt seen for the very first time in what seemed like an eternity. I shifted the subject back to him in an effort to make him laugh. "So where do you stand? Has starting a family ever crossed your mind?" Peter appeared uneasy as he fidgeted in his chair. "Oh, my clan? I don't understand. Suffice it to say that my folks and I have different opinions. Their kingdom exists, whereas my existence is lived on the road." My eyebrow was arched. "An empire, surely." I gave him a playful nudge. "Affluent, I suppose." He shook his head and smiled slightly. "Disregard the ostentatiousness. It's more like being bound and having high expectations." That night, we continued conversing for quite a while. I felt like I was really getting to know Peter as a person after we broke down barriers by opening out to each other. I was taken aback when the bartender began stacking chairs, a clear indication that it was time to leave, before I even realized it. While things were going swimmingly with Peter, he remained somewhat distant whenever we discussed weighty subjects, such as the future of our relationship. Everything changed then. Late one night, he was asked to supper at my place. Beyond picking me up on dates, this was his first encounter with my home. He surveyed his surroundings with an air of true wonder as he made his way around. "I really like this. Very nice, Cindy," he remarked, his tone betraying his apparent surprise. I spread my arms wide and laughed. "What, were you under the impression that I resided in a simple shack?" He laughed. "Well, I'm not sure. I suppose I hadn't really considered it. When my parents passed away, we were in a good position. I purchased this apartment for Cheryl and me after we sold our house. Now that the initial payment was made, it is fully ours." Peter, obviously awestruck, gave a nod. "You should be proud of yourself. I mean, seriously." We continued the evening by having dinner and then relaxing on the couch with a bottle of wine. At that moment, he revealed the shocking truth. "Cindy, our relationship has been on my mind quite a bit." My pulse rate increased. With an eyebrow raised, I met his gaze. "Oh, really? Also, what's been going through your mind?" With an expression I'd never seen before, he reached out and grabbed my hand. "Cindy, you have my affection. Trust me when I say I'm not interested in settling down. Yet there's something special about you. Being here with you is all I can think about." A wave of his words washed over me. He was recently very vocal about his desire for independence, and now this. I could tell he was serious, though, because I met his eyes. "Peter, are you sure? This isn't merely a conversation, is it?" Holding my hand, he firmly rejected the idea. "I've never taken something so seriously before. My love, Cindy, would you be my wife?" With profound significance, the issue lingered in the atmosphere. Thoughts flew through my head, but my heart was already set. I said, "Yes," without giving it much thought. "Indeed, I will with you." Our engagement happened in an instant. He pleasantly surprised me a few weeks later with a stunning, understated ring. It seemed unreal, as if I were entering a dream from which I did not wish to awaken. Without hesitation, Peter began making arrangements for the wedding. "Cindy, you ought to have something very remarkable." He proposed the idea of a wedding that would be remembered for a long time as we discussed potential locations and costs one night. But I was a little worried when he mentioned the budget. "I'm well connected," Peter boasted triumphantly. "The details will be taken care of by myself. I will arrange for our honeymoon to be at the most opulent hotel on earth. If you give me the money, say $60,000, we can then look at purchasing a home jointly." I hesitated when I heard the sum. Seeing the joy on his face convinced me to overcome my reluctance, even though it was a lot, almost all of my possessions. It was clear he was overjoyed and confident. "All right, Peter, I trust you, so please do what you think is best," I said before transferring the funds to his account and giving him control of the planning process. It warmed my heart to see him jump into the wedding planning. Even though he seemed to have materialized out of nowhere, this man now seemed destined to be a part of my life from the start. With a grin on my face and an attitude of gratitude for how well things was working out, I would go to sleep each night. I thought it was high time for Peter to meet Cheryl, my sister, as the wedding preparations progressed. Although she had a tendency to be overly direct at times, her viewpoint was significant because she was the sole remaining member of my family. Cheryl was a waitress at a nearby diner, so we planned to meet there. The bell hung jingling over the door as we entered, and Cheryl recognized us immediately. She beckoned to us as her expression brightened. She grinned broadly and yelled out, "Hey, sis." With a mischievous twinkle in her eye, she turned to Peter. "And I've heard amazing things about you. Your renown as a fiancé." With that endearing grin on his face, Peter reached out to her. "You must be the stunning sister everyone has been raving about. Could you possibly be twins?" Feeling a mix of pride and slight embarrassment, I couldn't help but roll my eyes. Very well. You should remove the charisma, sir." With a mischievous grin, Cheryl leaned closer and giggled. "Are you really that wealthy, Peter?" My face flushed with heat. "Cheryl, what a thrill!" Infuriated by her forthrightness, I let out a hiss. No matter what, she could always find a way to annoy me. Peter, though, shrugged it off and simply laughed. A silky, "Well, I've done all right," was his response. However, Cindy has a point. The love is more important than the money. An eyebrow was raised by Cheryl, who was obviously impressed. "An expert negotiator, huh? I like him." In the weeks that followed, Peter was the ideal fiancé, charming, attentive, and relentless in his pursuit of making me feel like the center of his universe. It was a comfort that he handled Cheryl's friendly taunting with ease. In the midst of all the wedding preparations, my closest friend, Lauren, and I went dress shopping. A bride's paradise, the store brimming with satin, lace, and silk. In front of the mirror, as I was zipped into a stunning gown, the gravity of the situation began to sink in. I couldn't believe it. Out of the adjacent booth came a sound that I knew all too well. A laugh. I peered curiously behind the curtain and saw Cheryl, dressed for her wedding, whirling in front of the mirror. Asking, "Cheryl?" I couldn't contain my shock and let out a gasp. "Why are you wearing a wedding dress? What are you even doing?" Attempting to process what she had just said, I fixed my gaze on her. "Are you for real? Would you like to share anything with me?" With a mix of curiosity and worry, I inquired. With a wry but distant smile, Cheryl shrugged a little. "Let it be a surprise," she added, her tone innocent yet hinting at something deeper. Observing the conversation, Lauren let out a laugh. "Seems like someone's been bitten by the wedding bug." Assuming Cheryl was simply being her typical mischievous self, we all laughed it off. As I adjusted the garment in front of my mirror and returned my attention to my own wedding day, the memory of Cheryl in her dress lingered. I pretended it didn't matter and ignored it. Before something unexpected happened, the day began normally. Peter hurriedly departed after breakfast, muttering something about a crucial meeting he must attend. Leaving his phone on the coffee table, he was in a hurry. A few while after he left, it began to buzz incessantly. My insatiable curiosity eventually won out. I assumed it might be a work or wedding-related emergency. Probably just a buddy checking in, I whispered to myself as I picked up the phone. Personally, I thought it was a little careless that Peter had never used a password. Perhaps that was my initial indication. Looking back, my inbox was overwhelmed with messages from a single contact, Cheryl, the moment the screen came to life. My pulse quickened. Why is he always messaging Cheryl? Thinking this, I reminded myself not to make hasty judgments. Nonetheless, I couldn't shake the sensation and read the notes. The first one landed squarely on my face. I long to spend the rest of my life by your side, Cheryl had penned. I don't want Cindy by my side. I want you. Reading Peter's response made my pulse quicken. My love, soon. We only require a bit more time to continue playing along. It's quite comical how stupid she is. As I continued scrolling, the impact of each message grew increasingly profound. All they could think about was the wedding and how they would use my money to start their life together after I left. Finally, the bombshell. Cheryl was carrying Peter's child. I felt a wave of queasy as the room spun around me. The little sister I had literally nurtured and helped financially was betraying me in the most heinous way imaginable. This whole treachery was being orchestrated by Peter, the man who had sworn to love and protect me. Peter returned an hour later, appearing embarrassed. "Hey, honey, did you see my phone?" he inquired, bending down to plant a kiss on my cheek as if nothing had happened. Just like I had done innumerable times at the hotel to mask my annoyance, I put on an artificial smile. I gently told him, "You left it here," and gave it to him. "You seem to be losing your footing and possibly losing your lifeline." As he accepted it, he likely checked his messages to make sure he hadn't missed anything important. Still, I caught a glimpse of the slight satisfaction that must have crossed his face as he appeared to have escaped harm. I was already plotting how to confront both of them, and he had no idea that I had witnessed everything. Attempting to decipher any indication that he could suspect my knowledge of the truth, I observed him intently. However, Peter, entangled in his own deceit, was completely ignorant. My hands clenched as I felt him laugh at something on his phone screen. "Peter, feel free to laugh it up. Take advantage of this opportunity while you have it." As we laid in bed later that night, he was beaming, planning our future together. "Cindy, it will turn out beautifully. This union, our existence. You'll notice." With love and betrayal entwined in my emotions, I faced him. A soft whisper, "I'm sure it will be," from my lips as I allowed him to come closer. "Indy, faultless." He nodded out, but I remained wide awake, my thoughts racing with plans. I refused to let myself become a pawn in this sick game. I would put on a spectacle they would never forget if they asked me to. Just a little longer of the loving fiancé act was required of me first. At long last, the big day was here, the wedding, and the platform for the performance of a lifetime had come. Guests sat in the flower-filled grand hall, whispering eagerly as if they had no idea what drama was about to happen. Just as we were about to exchange vows at the altar, the doors at the back of the hall swung open. Wearing her own wedding gown, Cheryl strode down the aisle with an air of complete dominance. With a dramatic flourish, she strode up to us and shoved me aside, and the onlookers gasped and turned to observe her. It was her, not you, Cindy, who deserved to be here, she declared with a voice that echoed through the hall. "His child will be born to me." She looked across to Peter. "Inform her, spread the word." Peter severed our grip and let forth a loud, hideous laugh that resounded throughout the room. "Much obliged, Cindy, for arranging such a magnificent nuptial ceremony. My sister and I will love it." As astonishment crossed the guests' features as they let out a gasp, with a satisfied expression on his face, Peter went on. "Cindy, why don't you sit down? You are invited to enjoy the show." I simply smiled and gracefully stepped back, even if his comments were meant to break me. My voice remained steady as I said, "Certainly. I am absolutely thrilled about it." I strode away, denying them the scene they had anticipated, and their arrogant grins melted into a hint of bewilderment. Like a bystander in my own life, I sat down, crossed my legs, and watched the chaos unfold. Just as Peter and Cheryl were about to face the priest and exchange vows, another interruption cut them off. A furious-looking older woman stumped down the aisle. As her voice broke the stillness, she yelled out, "Peter," and I noticed that Peter's cheeks were turning white. As the woman walked furiously toward the altar, the place fell into eerie silence. She proclaimed, her voice quivering with anger, that I am his wife and the mother of his child, something he conveniently forgot along with the vows he made to me. Legs that appeared to be giving way beneath Cheryl appeared to be devoid of color. In a wordless cry for aid, she glanced between Peter and the woman before returning her gaze to me. Nothing more needed to be said, though. As my life fell apart in front of my eyes, I did nothing more than sit back and let the mayhem unfold. I felt an odd sense of liberation. I rose to my feet, my voice clear and unruffled amidst the din. "I also have a little surprise in store for everyone," I declared, my voice measured and decisive. "Besides being a cheater, Peter is also broke. He's in over his head in debt, according to a private investigator. He has been robbing from his own family, which is the worst part, and his investments have collapsed." Shock and whispers filled the room, creating an electric atmosphere of scandal. Peter's wife, who was now irate beyond description, looked over at Cheryl. "And you," she said as she drew near my sister. "How outrageous!" As the gravity of her treachery hit her, Cheryl staggered backward, her eyes watering. An odd combination of contentment and melancholy washed over me as I watched, even though it caused a hollow aching inside. Seeing everything unravel seemed like justice after weeks of anguish and careful planning. With an abrasive and relentless tone, Peter's wife persisted. "You really believe he's going to start a family with you after he's abandoned us with nothing? Be awake, my dear." The ideal wedding for Cheryl was turning into a nightmare, and she sobbed as a result. In an attempt to salvage the situation, Peter attempted to utter a word, but his wife struck him across the face, causing a startled hush as the hall resounded with the sharp snap of the slap. The doors swung open once more as folks were starting to take it all in. Once again, it was Peter's folks. Their expressions betrayed their dismay and disappointment as they entered. A severe-looking man in a sharp suit, his father surveyed the room before fixing his intense stare on Peter. In a voice that roared and silenced the onlookers, his father said, "I am completely embarrassed of you, Peter." His unwavering stare seemed capable of inflicting regret upon his son. A fragile woman holding a handkerchief, his mother's face betrayed her emotions as she sobbed. "How on earth could you, my son?" Tears streamed down her face. "We did not bring you up this way. It is absolutely unacceptable to deceive these women." Peter stood there, his charisma dwindling as the public disdain for his family weighed heavily on him. He was about to say something, perhaps to clarify, when his father abruptly silenced him. "You will never again be remembered as an ancestor of this family. Think of yourself as bereft of an inheritance." Once again, the audience went absolutely wild, with many whipping out their phones to record the spectacular collapse of my once perfect wedding. I brought Peter to court in the weeks that followed. I went to court to get back the $60,000 he had stolen from me. I had naively put all my faith in Peter and given him the wedding money. However, the judge found in my favor due to the clear evidence I presented, and Peter was ordered to reimburse every amount. Not long after that, Peter's wife sued him for wrongful imprisonment, mental suffering, and alimony for their daughter. As I witnessed Peter suffer the repercussions of his deceit, I was filled with a mix of emotions as I attended each court hearing. Cheryl, who had nearly destroyed me, was standing by his side, which caught me off guard. She accosted me outside the courtroom one day, her expression betraying her hurt and indignation. "Both he and I love one another, Cindy. No matter what you or anybody else thinks, we're going to get through this," she continued, her voice quivering but determined. The sister I had once cared for so completely now seemed like an alien to me as I stared at her. "Is it love? What do you mean by love?" My voice was heavy with skepticism as I asked. He took advantage of Cheryl and myself. "Come closer. He deceives." "But he's changed," she adamantly stated, her voice quivering. "I'll get him to change. You failed to perceive any redeeming qualities in him." A sour chuckle slipped out of my mouth as I shook my head. "Is it up to par? Cheryl, he's completely lacking in virtue. You're simply another victim of his deceptive artistry." I felt a great burden fall on me as I strode away. A toll had been taken by the deceit, treachery, and interminable legal disputes. Still, something about the situation felt resolved. The man who had previously assured me of his affection had revealed his actual character, and I had exposed him for it. Instead of a dramatic final, Peter quietly resigned himself to his fate as he disappeared from town, leaving behind a wake of unfulfilled promises and outstanding bills. He had paid off his obligations to me and his legal wife before he vanished, maybe in an effort to start over. My sister, who was now pregnant and living alone, was the worst problem he left behind with Cheryl. Cheryl turned up at my flat a couple of weeks following Peter's disappearance. It had been since the courtroom scene that I had last laid eyes on her. Her once confident self now stood there, her gaze lowered. "Cindy, I am in desperate need of assistance," she whispered. "He dumped me, and now I'm going to be a mother to his child. My possessions are non-existent. Had I been the one to raise her, I might have thrown open the door and welcomed her return without hesitation. However, there was just too much pain and too much trauma to quickly forget." I whispered, "You have the apartment," maintaining a strong but friendly tone. "Plus, the baby will be yours. There's progress. Listen up, Cheryl. You ain't no street person. There is hope for you." I whispered, "You have the apartment," maintaining a strong but friendly tone. "Plus, the baby will be yours. There's progress. Listen up, Cheryl. You ain't no street person. There is hope for you." "However, Cindy, I am financially strapped. I need help with the bills and the baby," she implored, her eyes filled with anguish. Although it pained me to see her in this state, I was firm in my resolve and shook my head in protest. "Your decision is final, Cheryl. You need to whip up a new one right now. You are capable of solving this problem." I shut the door behind her as she glanced at me, her eyes betraying her growing awareness. It was clear to me that she needed to discover her inner power, just like I had. "I had to remain composed when my parents passed away," I stated with a steady voice. "And I had to dig deep when you duped me." In a fit of sobbing, Cheryl hid her face in her hands and shook uncontrollably. "I was never intending to cause you any harm. I believed I was bewitched. Yes, I did." My response was unwavering. "Love doesn't make you betray your family. You can't claim to love me if you turned a blind eye to my shame. Staying away from him or telling me the truth before everything came apart would have been your way of showing me that you loved me." With a look of desperation in her eyes, Cheryl glanced upwards. "Is it then? Am I to believe that you will simply reject me?" "Yes," I responded with a firm tone. "Just as I took care of you, you will take care of your child when you leave this place." With one more resounding smash, I turned around and returned to my flat, where I slammed the door, therefore erasing her cries. I knew it was essential, but it was the hardest thing I had ever done. Life went back to the peaceful monotony. I had forgotten how much I had missed it after that day. The sense of autonomy that had always defined me was gradually restored as I dove headfirst back into my job, revived long-forgotten interests, and rediscovered my passions. Regarding Cheryl, I was informed by acquaintances of hers that she gave birth to a daughter. They claimed she was doing okay, making it on her own. My deepest wish was that she would discover her purpose and blossom into a formidable mother, something she had failed to do while growing up.
Hi, I'm Mary. I'm 18 and a senior in high school. Up until recently, life was pretty decent, just me and my dad, James. Ever since my mom passed a few years back, he's been my rock, and I've been his. He's always encouraged my dreams of becoming a journalist, one who takes down corruption and fights for the truth. But then Jennifer showed up. Dad met her at some work event, and suddenly, everything shifted. She's divorced with a son named Andrew, who's 16 and about as charming as a wet sock. At first, I tried to be cool about it. Dad deserved to be happy. But something about Jennifer got under my skin. She was always cozying up to Dad, laughing at his every joke, giving me these fake, sugary smiles that never reached her eyes. "Mary, sweetie," she'd say, "you don't mind if I rearrange the living room, right? James says you're so easygoing." I'd just grit my teeth and nod. "Whatever makes you feel at home, Jennifer." But it didn't stop there. Before I knew it, Dad was talking about marriage. "Don't you think this is moving a little fast, Dad?" I asked, trying to be reasonable. He just shrugged it off. "When you know, kiddo. Jennifer makes me happy." The wedding was a blur. One minute, I was trying to be a supportive daughter. The next, I was watching Dad smash cake into the face of a woman I barely knew. Things got tense fast. I hear Jennifer and Dad arguing late at night. "James, we need a bigger place," she'd say. "This house is too small for 4 people. But Dad was firm. "We can't afford it right now, honey. Maybe in a few months." Her response was always the same. "Well, something has to give. Andrew needs his own space." I tried to ignore it, until one night, Dad knocked on my door, looking like he'd rather be anywhere else. "Mary, honey, we need to talk." My stomach sank. "What's up, Dad?" He couldn't even look me in the eye. "Jennifer and I think it might be best if you moved into the guest room. Just temporarily, of course." I felt like I'd been punched. "You want me to give up my room for Andrew?" Dad tried to explain he's not adjusting well, and Jennifer thinks. Oh, so it's what Jennifer thinks now. All I could do was nod numbly. "Fine, whatever. I'll move my stuff tomorrow." As Dad left, I heard Jennifer downstairs. "See, James, I told you she'd understand." Moving into the guest room felt like exile. My things barely fit, and the walls felt like they were closing in on me. Meanwhile, Andrew moved into my old room as if he owned the place. "Hey sis, thanks for the upgrade," he smirked, rushing past me in the hallway. I bit my tongue hard. "It's Mary, not sis, and you're welcome, I guess." Jennifer seemed to be driving a wedge between Dad and me on purpose. Every time I tried to talk to him, she'd pop up. "James, honey, didn't you say you'd fix the leaky faucet today?" And just like that, any moment I had with Dad would vanish. Andrew's behavior was getting stranger by the day. He'd come home at odd hours, eyes red, muttering something about study groups. His moods were all over the place, laughing one second, snapping the next. I couldn't focus on school. My grades started slipping. One of my teachers pulled me aside after class. "Mary, is everything okay? This isn't like you." I just shrugged. "I'm fine. Just distracted." At lunch, I finally spilled everything to my best friend Zoe. "Something's not right with Andrew," I told her. "He's always sneaking around, and I swear I smelled weed in the bathroom the other day." Zoe's eyes widened. "Mary, I didn't want to say anything, but I see him hanging out with Jake's crew behind the gym." My stomach dropped. Jake's group was known for drugs and trouble. "Are you serious? Does my dad even know who he's let into our house?" Zoe shook her head. "I doubt it. Andrew's the type to play nice in front of the parents." I knew I had to do something, but Dad was too wrapped up in his honeymoon phase with Jennifer to see it. "I need to find out what Andrew's really up to," I said, determination hardening in my voice. Zoe looked at me, her expression full of worry. "Be careful, Mary. This could backfire big time." But I was done being careful. This was my home, my family, and I wasn't about to let Andrew and Jennifer tear it apart. I decided to count my savings from my part-time job at the diner, hoping I'd put away enough for emergencies. But as I counted, I felt a chill. I was missing $100. I'd been so careful, hiding my cash in different spots around my room. Someone had found it. Late that night, I heard a creak outside my door. I held my breath, heart pounding. Slowly, the door opened, and I saw Andrew's silhouette in the darkness. That's when I snapped. "What the hell are you doing?" I hissed, flipping on the light. Andrew jumped, eyes wide. I was just looking for more money to steal. I accused, stepping closer. His surprised expression turned cold. "So what if it was? What are you going to do about it?" "I'm telling Dad, you little thief." Before I could react, Andrew grabbed my arm, his grip painful. "You're not telling anyone. Got it? You have no idea what I'm dealing with." I yanked my arm away. "Oh yeah? Why don't you enlighten me?" He looked away, his voice cracking. "You think it's easy moving to a new town, new school, living with little Miss Perfect." Realization dawned on me. "You're using the money for drugs." Andrew let out a bitter laugh. "Bingo. Give the girl a prize." I felt sick. "Andrew, this is serious. You need help." "I don't need anything from you," he spat. "If you breathe a word of this to anyone, I'll make your life hell." As he stormed out, I sank to the floor, overwhelmed. What was I supposed to do? The next few days at school, I kept an eye on Andrew, noticing his bloodshot eyes and jittery demeanor. His behavior was spiraling, and it was only a matter of time before things got worse. A classmate pulled me aside one day, looking shaken. "Mary, you should have seen it." We were in English, and Andrew just flipped out. Knocked his desk over and started yelling at Mrs. Johnson right in her face. Said, "Who cares about Shakespeare?" Never seen him snap like that before. I tried to swallow my anxiety, but then an announcement crackled over the PA. "Attention students, please remain in your classrooms. We will be conducting a routine locker check." My stomach dropped. I knew what they find in Andrew's locker. An hour later, I was called to the principal's office. Mr. Harmon's expression was grim. "Mary, I understand Andrew is your stepbrother." I nodded, my mouth dry. "We found illegal substances in his locker. Given the amount, we have reason to believe he may be dealing." I gasped, shocked. "Dealing? No, he's just using." I stopped, realizing what I just admitted. Mr. Harmon leaned forward. "Mary, what do you know about this?" So I told him everything, the stealing, the mood swings, the threats. By the end, I was shaking. Mr. Harmon sighed. "Thank you for your honesty. Unfortunately, given the severity of the situation, we'll need to involve the police and Child Protective Services." My head spun. "The police?" "I'm sorry, Mary, but this is beyond the school's jurisdiction now. We'll need to contact your parents immediately." As I left the office on shaky legs, I saw Andrew being escorted out by 2 officers. Our eyes met for a brief moment, and in his gaze, I saw anger, fear, and something else. Desperation. I slumped against the wall, feeling my world crumble. How had it come to this? And how was I going to face my dad? Later that night, police cruisers pulled up to our house, lights flashing. From my window, I watched as 2 officers approached the front door. My dad answered, confusion etched on his face. "Mr. Thompson, we need to speak with you and your son, Andrew." Dad's voice shook. "What's this about?" "Sir, we have a warrant to search the premises. Your son was found in possession of illegal substances at school." I saw the color drain from Dad's face as he let them in. Jennifer came rushing down the stairs, eyes wide. "What's going on?" "Andrew?" The next hour was a blur. Police searched Andrew's room, uncovering more drugs and stolen cash. Andrew sat sullen and handcuffed, being questioned in the living room while I watched it all unfold, feeling like I was in some twisted movie. Dad turned to me, his eyes pleading. "Mary, did you know about this?" Before I could answer, Jennifer cut in, her voice dripping with accusation. Of course she knew. She's probably the one who ratted him out, always jealous of Andrew, weren't you? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "Are you kidding me? Andrew's been stealing from me for months. He even threatened me when I caught him." Dad's head whipped around. He what? And just like that, everything came pouring out. The theft, the threats, and the way Jennifer had been treating me. Dad listened, his face growing darker with each revelation. "Why did he tell me?" he asked, his voice breaking. "Would you have believed me?" I shot back. You've been so wrapped up in your new family, you didn't even notice what was happening. Jennifer screeched. This is ridiculous, James. Are you really going to let her talk to me like that after everything we've done for her? But something had shifted in Dad's eyes. He looked at Jennifer as though seeing her for the first time. What you've done for her, he asked quietly. You've made her feel unwelcome in her own home, pushed her out of her room, undermined our relationship, and ignored the fact that your son was spiraling out of control. Jennifer's face contorted with rage. How dare you? This is all her fault. If she hadn't been such a little. Enough, Dad roared. I had never heard him yell like that before. He turned to the officers. I think you have what you need. Please take Andrew into custody. As they led Andrew out, he shot me a glare. Hope you're happy now, sis. Jennifer grabbed her purse, her expression twisted with anger. If you're choosing her over us, we're done. Don't bother calling. And with that, she stormed out. Just like that, they were gone, leaving the house in silence. The weight of everything that had happened settled over us like a heavy blanket. Dad and I stood there, neither of us knowing what to say. Finally, he spoke, his voice thick with emotion. Mary, I'm so sorry. I've been a terrible father. I wanted to stay angry to make him feel the hurt and neglect I had felt. But seeing him so broken, I couldn't do it. You really have, Dad. He nodded, tears in his eyes. I know, I got so caught up in trying to create this perfect new family that I forgot about the amazing one I already had. Can you ever forgive me? I took a deep breath. It's going to take time, Dad. A lot of time. We talked for hours that night, really talked for the first time in months. We spoke about Mom, our fears, and how we drifted apart. By the end, we were both emotionally drained. I said slowly, I think I need some space to process everything. Dad looked pained but nodded. I understand. What do you want to do? Can I stay with Aunt Sarah for a while? Just to finish out senior year. Of course, sweetheart. Whatever you need. The next few months were a whirlwind. Moving in with Aunt Sarah, focusing on school, and slowly rebuilding my relationship with Dad. He started therapy, working through his grief over Mom and his guilt over what had happened with Jennifer and Andrew. And slowly, Dad and I began to mend. It wasn't perfect, and things weren't the same as before, but he was trying. He visited regularly, always respecting my boundaries, showing me he was committed to making things right. I knew we still had a long way to go, but we were on the right path. The story of Mary, her father, and their fractured family has come to an end. Now I have a question for you. If you were in Mary's shoes, would you have forgiven your father? Or do you think some betrayals are too deep to truly move past? Share your thoughts in the comments below. I'm Rose, sitting in my cramped Chicago apartment, staring at the blinking cursor on my laptop screen. It mocks me as I try to churn out the next chapter of my novel. The pile of unpaid bills on the coffee table looms in the corner of my eye, a constant reminder that my barista job barely covers rent. But hey, a girl's got dreams, right? My phone buzzes, pulling me from my thoughts. It's my best friend, William. Yo, Rose, how's the writing going? I sigh. About as well as my love life, non-existent. He chuckles. Come on, it can't be that bad. Want to grab a coffee? I'm buying. You know Iceland coffee all day, right? But fine, me Eva Joe's in 20. I throw on a worn-out jacket and head out, the chilly Chicago wind nipping at my face. As I walk, my thoughts drift to my so-called family. My mom, Linda, had me when she was practically a kid herself. And my biological dad disappeared faster than you can say deadbeat. At Joe's, I spot William waving from our usual corner booth. He's already ordered my usual latte, bless him. Spill it, he says as I slide in across from him. What's got you looking like someone stole your last cookie? I take a sip, savoring the warmth before answering. Just family stuff, you know how it is. William nods, understanding in his eyes. He's heard it all before. Oliver and Nancy, he asks. Bingo. I don't even know why I bother anymore. I say, frustration simmering just beneath the surface. Oliver married my mom when I was 5, but he never treated me like I was his. And Nancy, my so-called sister, don't even get me started. They're still giving you a hard time. I nod, trying to keep my voice steady. It's been worse since Mom died. They don't even hide how much they don't want me around anymore. William reaches across the table, squeezing my hand. You don't need them, Rose. You've got friends who actually care about you. I know, I say, forcing a smile. It's just, they're supposed to be family, you know? As we finish our coffee, my phone pings with a new email. I open it, groaning at the sight of an overly formal invitation. What now? William asks, raising an eyebrow. It's an invite to Oliver's 55th birthday bash. Some fancy party at the mansion, I say, holding up my phone for him to see. Are you actually considering going? He asks, skepticism written all over his face. I hesitate, torn. Part of me wants to delete the email and forget I ever saw it. But another part, yeah, I think I will. I don't know why I keep torturing myself. But maybe this time will be different. William gives me a wary look. Just be careful, okay? And call me if you need an escape plan. I nod, though a knot forms in my stomach as I head home. Back in my apartment, I flop onto the bed, staring at the ceiling. The invitation feels like it's burning a hole in my pocket. I pull it out and read it again. You are cordially invited to celebrate Oliver Thompson's 55th birthday. Cordially, right. That's how they've always treated me, with forced politeness and a healthy dose of disdain. I can't help but remember Mom's funeral, the way Oliver and Nancy stood apart, like my grief was some contagious disease. The whispers, the sidelong glances, but still I keep going back, keep hoping that maybe this time they'll see me as part of the family. I grab my phone, typing out a quick RSVP. I'll be there. As I hit send, I wonder if I'm making a huge mistake. The night of the party, I find myself standing in front of Oliver's mansion, my hand hovering over the ornate doorbell. The muffled sounds of laughter and clinking glasses seep through the heavy door. I take a deep breath, smooth down my dress, and press the bell. A butler answers, his gaze sweeping over me with thinly veiled disdain. Name? Rose Johnson, I say, forcing confidence into my voice. I'm Oliver's stepdaughter. He raises an eyebrow but steps aside, allowing me in. The noise hits me like a wave. Dozens of people in designer clothes, chattering and sipping champagne. Rose, you made it. William's voice cuts through the din. I turn to see him pushing through the crowd, a grin plastered on his face. He pulls me into a hug. Wouldn't miss it, I reply, trying to smile. Thanks for being my plus one. Are you kidding? Free booze and a front row seat to the family drama. I'm all in, he jokes. I laugh, swatting his arm. Jerk. Come on, let's grab a drink. As we weave through the crowd, I can feel eyes on me, hear the whispers that trail in our wake. I try to focus on William's running commentary about the stuffy rich folks, but it's hard to ignore the feeling of being watched. Well, if it isn't the prodigal stepdaughter, a familiar voice sneers. I turn to see Nancy, dressed to the nines in a gown that probably costs more than my rent. A champagne flute dangles from her perfectly manicured fingers. Hello, Nancy, I say, forcing a polite smile. Happy birthday to Oliver. She smirks. Oh, I'm sure Daddy will be thrilled you remembered. He's over there, holding court with his business partners. Why don't you go say hello? Before I can respond, she saunters off, leaving a trail of expensive perfume. William squeezes my shoulder. You okay? Yeah, I mutter, downing my champagne in one gulp. Let's go find him. We spot Oliver surrounded by men in sharp suits, their conversation a blur of stock prices and mergers. I approach hesitantly. Oliver, I say, my voice barely a whisper. He turns, his smile faltering for just a second. Rose, you came, he says, pulling me into a stiff, awkward hug. Gentlemen, this is my stepdaughter. One of the men, younger than the rest, steps forward with a charming smile. Michael Davis. Pleasure to meet you, Rose. As Michael and I shook hands, I felt an unexpected flutter in my stomach. Maybe, just maybe, this evening wouldn't be so bad after all. For the next hour, I actually started to enjoy myself. Michael was charming, funny, and easy to talk to, and even Oliver seemed to be warming up. Soon Emma, Oliver's business partner's daughter, joined us, and the four of us were laughing and swapping stories. But then Nancy reappeared, clearly drunk, stumbling into our little circle. She latched onto Michael's arm, her eyes narrowing as she noticed me. Mikey, I see you've met my dear half-sister, she slurred, each word laced with bitterness. Did she tell you about her mysterious background? The mood shifted instantly. Michael's brow furrowed. What do you mean? He asked, his smile fading. Nancy's eyes gleamed with malice as she grinned. Oh, you didn't know? Rose here is of unknown parentage. Daddy took her in out of the goodness of his heart. The silence was suffocating. I felt the blood drain from my face as everyone turned to stare. Oliver cleared his throat but said nothing, his gaze firmly fixed on the floor. Michael looked between Nancy and me, clearly unsure how to respond. Emma gasped softly, her hand covering her mouth. Frozen in place, I barely registered Nancy's next words. It's quite the scandal, really. No one knows who her real father is. For all we know, she could be. That's enough, Nancy. William's voice sliced through the tension, and before I knew it, his arm was around my shoulders. Rose, let's go. As he led me away, I glanced back just once and caught Oliver's expression. He looked relieved, like he was glad to see me go. We burst out of the mansion and into the cool night air. I gulped down a shaky breath, trying to keep myself from falling apart. Rose, breathe. It's okay. They're not worth it, William murmured, pulling me into a hug. I shook my head, tears spilling over. How could she, in front of everyone? She's a miserable person, that's how. Come on, I'm taking you home. The ride back to my apartment was a blur. William tried to comfort me, but I barely heard him. All I could think about was the look on everyone's faces, the pity, the shock, the judgment. By the time we got to my place, my heart felt like it had been ripped open. I kicked off my heels and collapsed onto the couch. William lingered by the door. Do you want me to stay? He asked softly. I shook my head. No, I need to be alone right now. Thanks for everything, William. After he left, I sat in the dark, replaying the entire night in my mind. How could I have been so stupid to think that maybe, just maybe, they'd accept me this time? My phone buzzed, breaking the silence. It was a notification from Instagram. With shaking hands, I opened it. There it was, a post from Nancy, clearly made before the party. Can't wait to see everyone tonight. Well, almost everyone. Hashtag family secrets, hashtag unknown parentage. The comments were filled with laughing emojis, shocked faces, and questions. People I thought were friends, all chiming in and speculating about me. The next morning, I woke up with a pounding headache and a heart full of rage. Enough was enough. It was time to fight back. My first call was to Grandma Eleanor. We hadn't spoken much since Mom died, but I needed answers. Rose, is everything all right, dear? She asked, her voice concerned. Not really, Grandma. I need to talk to you about Mom and Oliver. There was a long pause before she responded. I suppose it's time you knew the truth. Come over for tea. An hour later, I was sitting in Grandma's cozy living room, clutching a steaming mug of tea as she looked at me, a sadness in her eyes. Your mother loved you more than anything, Rose, she began. But Oliver, he made her life hell. My hands tightened around the mug. What do you mean? He was controlling, manipulative. He isolated Linda from her friends, from me. And his business practices, let's just say they weren't entirely above board. As Grandma spoke, the pieces began to fall into place. I remembered the hushed arguments. I remember overhearing things as a child, the inexplicable mood swings, the way Oliver always seemed to get his way, how Mom would fall silent whenever he entered the room. But I never understood why no one said anything. Grandma's eyes filled with tears when I asked her. We tried, dear, but Oliver had everyone under his thumb, including Linda. He isolated her, made sure she had no one to turn to. I left Grandma's house with a heavy heart, but a newfound determination. The truth was uglier than I'd imagined, but I was done being in the dark. My next stop was William's place. I need your help, I said the moment he opened the door. William raised an eyebrow. We going to dig into Oliver's company? I nodded. I know it's risky, but we have to. I need to know what he's hiding. Isn't that illegal? He asked, a cautious smile tugging at his lips. Not if we do it right. Come on, I know you've got connections in the finance world. For the next few days, William and I pored over public records, financial reports, and anything else we could get our hands on. Piece by piece, the puzzle came together. Holy, William muttered, staring at his laptop screen in disbelief. Rose, look at this. I leaned over his shoulder, my eyes widening. Is that what I think it is? Yep, he said grimly. Looks like your dear old stepdad's been cooking the books for years. Embezzlement, fraud, you name it. Just then, my phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. I hesitated but answered. Rose? It's Emma. I'm really sorry about what happened at the party. I think there's something you should know about Nancy. We met at a quiet cafe later that afternoon. Emma looked nervous, her hands trembling as she held her coffee cup. Nancy's been bullying people for years, she blurted out. Not just you. I've got proof, screenshots, videos, everything. Why are you telling me this? I asked, still stunned. Emma met my eyes with a fierce determination. Because it's time someone stood up to her. And I think that someone is you. As if on cue, my phone buzzed again. This time, it was a message from Michael. Rose, we need to talk. I'm not just a business associate of Oliver's. I'm an undercover journalist investigating his company. My head was spinning. In just a few days, my whole world had turned upside down. But for the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of hope. That night, I sat at my laptop, fingers hovering over the keyboard. The cursor blinked at me, waiting. I took a deep breath and started typing. Chapter 1. The Girl in the Shadows. My tell-all book about growing up in a toxic family was finally taking shape. No real names, of course. I wasn't stupid, but the truth was all there. And that's all the time we have for today's segment, the talk show host announced, turning to me with a smile. Join us next week when we'll be talking to Rose Johnson, author of the runaway bestseller Shadows in the Family Portrait. Rose, thanks for being here. I smiled at the camera, my heart racing. Thanks for having me. The moment we went off air, my phone exploded with notifications. The book had struck a chord, sparking conversations about emotional abuse and toxic family dynamics across the country. But this was just the beginning. William burst into my apartment, waving a newspaper in his hand. Have you seen this? He asked, practically vibrating with excitement. I grabbed the paper, my eyes widening at the headline. Thompson Industries under federal investigation for fraud. Michael's exposé had done its job. Oliver's carefully constructed empire was crumbling. My phone rang again. It was Emma, her voice breathless with excitement. It worked. The board saw the evidence of Nancy's bullying. She's been fired, and her social media is blowing up. No one wants to touch her with a 10-foot pole. I sank onto the couch, overwhelmed. It was actually happening. The truth was finally coming out. Then came the call I'd been dreading. Rose, Oliver's voice was weak, strained. I've had a heart attack. The doctors say it's stress. I know I have no right to ask, but I need you. I closed my eyes, taking a deep breath. I'm sorry, Oliver, but I can't be there for you. Not after everything you've done. But we're family, he pleaded. No, Oliver. We're not. I replied, my voice steady. Take care of yourself. I hung up, feeling a weight lift off my shoulders. The next day, another call came in. This time, it was Nancy, her voice tearful and apologetic. Rose, I'm so sorry for everything. Can we talk? I listened to her rambling apology, feeling nothing. No anger, no satisfaction, just emptiness. I hear you, Nancy, and I accept your apology. But that doesn't mean I want you in my life. I hung up, finally ready to move on. I had spent too many years chasing acceptance from people who never deserved my loyalty. Now, I was free.